I mean, I had what you would call depression.
And you got prescribed pills.
Drugs.
You didn't like
drugs.
them? Yeah.
Oh, they were great. They made the depression go away.
Yeah.
But we don't go into it in this podcast.
Well, you know what people use to make depression go away?
What?
Is nicotine.
Yes, they do. Well, nicotine is I always term it, I'm sorry, I know you want, I always call it the powerful antidepressant, because that's what it is. A lot of people who are so proud that they don't take antidepressants smoke.
Yeah,
and it's a super powerful antidepressant.
Right, right. What's with people who stop drinking and they start smoking? Why is there such
They start smoking?
Or they smoke more than they did before?
Up.
Yeah. Well, why is there like such a connection there?
Because it's basically you're substituting one drug for another, if you want to call alcohol a drug. But it's the same psychoactive, the psychotropic effect that you're looking for. You just switch to something else. Some people switch. Some people just don't switch only to smoking, to nicotine. They switch to food, to sex, to relationships, to approval. This whole smorgasbord of, mesolimbic stimulation in their heads.
Yeah.
That,
Dopamine.
Dopamine, all the neurotransmitters, it lights up all those pathways.
Yeah.
And they get obsessions with other things.
Right. Things that they can use without appearing inebriated in public. Basically.
Right. They just smell better now because they're not drinking. They don't act better. They just smell better, and they don't crash.
I don't know about the nicotine. I don't know about the smoking one.
Yeah. Well, AA is famous for that, right? You got all these people who don't drink.
Yeah.
And they come into a room and they commiserate they talk about how happy they are or how sad they are or whatever they're talking about.
Right.
And then they go outside and they all light up cigarettes and they're all like sucking in this nicotine.
Yeah.
AA is famous for that. Bill W. was a chain smoker for a good portion of his life.
Well, now I wouldn't be surprised now if outside the AAA meetings are a bunch of vapors.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, or maybe I guess the vapors, is that the right word? I don't know.
Vape? Oh, she has the vapors.
Oh, yeah. I mean, better than vapist. I mean, that doesn't sound very good, right? But people who vape, whatever you call it.
We may not even get this on YouTube.
No, I didn't say anything wrong.
Okay.
With a V. Okay, anyway. But people who vape, and we were talking about nicotine.
Terrible.
We were talking about nicotine pouches a couple podcasts ago.
We were talking about Tucker.
And we were talking about Tucker Carlson's nicotine use with the pouches. But even worse than the pouches are definitely the vapes. The vapes got to be worse than the pouches.
I think so.
Because with the vapes, you're getting so much nicotine. It's crazy.
And the thing is, you're also getting it fast.
You're getting it really fast.
Yeah.
Well, the cigarettes, you get it fast too because it's in your lungs, right?
Yeah.
But it is, you get way less of it. Because how it works is basically with the cigarette, we had a little confusion last time. The cigarette has around 10 milligrams of nicotine in it.
In one whole cigarette.
But you don't get 10. You get like 1. You get like between 1 and 2. So it's really inefficient.
Because it's just poorly absorbed.
It's poorly absorbed, but you actually, once it gets to your lungs, you absorb it very well. Right. So that 1 milligram that actually makes it there, you get. Yeah. But getting it into your lungs is the part that is very inefficient. It goes out as smoke, and it just, you lose most of it with the cigarette. But with vapes, there's not a lot of waste like that. And so with a cigarette, you absorb, that's about 10-20% of the total. With vapes, it's more like 40 or 50%. So you're getting way more of the nicotine that was all there to begin with in your body. And also, you go through one of these cartridges. When I was in school, people used to do Juul. You remember Juul? Juul. Yep. That was big. Apparently, Juul isn't the big player anymore. Now it's Elf Bar.
What?
It's called Elf Bar. Have you heard of Elf Bar?
No, I have not.
Yeah. So Juul is the whole thing.
I think I went to an Elf Bar one time.
I hope you didn't go to an Elf
Lower
Bar.
Manhattan.
Uh-oh.
No.
What were you doing there?
Elf Bar.
Yeah, but apparently, those are disposable. So that's why they're really popular.
Oh, I see.
They're
disposable? Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
That must be quite expensive.
Bars. I guess they make them really cheap. And guess what? They're a Chinese company. They're not even American.
Right.
So it's like, okay, China is sending over these vapes now. And by the way, with all these drugs, with the fentanyl and the even marijuana, growing marijuana in the US, and now with the nicotine, if you trace it, it's all like China financing all this stuff in different ways, whether it's illegally or through a legal business like this vape company. And what happens is people go through like a whole pod a whole cartridge, whatever they're calling them now, in only a couple days. So you're getting all that nicotine in over the course of only 2 or 3 days. And that's the average person. That's the average user.
Okay.
So the average vape user is getting the equivalent of about 1 or 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Right.
So you used to have like 2-pack-a-day smokers, which is like
which is a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
For the vape user, that amount of nicotine is average.
Oh, I see.
So that's the average vape user is getting about 20. No, I guess that's 40 cigarettes a day's worth of nicotine is like the average vape user. So that's a ton of nicotine.
That's a lot of nicotine.
That's a ton. And that, I mean, that's way over the recommended limits, and that's affecting your cognition. And the withdrawal from that's got to be terrible too.
Well, affecting cognition, it's increasing cognition.
It's increasing it to a point. I think once you're going beyond that, I have a feeling that the effects on your body are going to outweigh
Short term,
whatever.
it increases your cognition. Long term,
it does, yeah.
Long term, it affects what they call epithelial functioning,
right?
Which is the lining inside of your capillaries, and that goes into your brain, and it restricts your blood flow, and you actually have less cognition long term.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's over years of smoking.
It also it boosts dopamine, right? It activates your dopamine.
Yep.
But it does serotonin too.
Right.
And apparently that wears off once you get used to it. So you don't get that serotonin.
Yeah.
Boost
So in other words, you need to smoke to feel normal after a while.
I guess so. Yeah. Well, you go through terrible withdrawal if you don't. But what I was trying to say is I
have to tell you the withdrawal from nicotine is not as bad as people make it out to be. It's the physical withdrawal from nicotine, it's pretty rapid, it's pretty fast, you're done in a few days.
Right.
And it's really no worse than getting over a bad cold or a mild flu.
Well, I would imagine it's worse for somebody who's getting that much, right? If you're desensitizing yourself to like I said, 20 40 cigarettes a day worth of nicotine, two packs a day, whatever. I mean, you've helped people quit smoking.
Sure.
Is the person who smokes a couple cigarettes, do they have a different experience than the person who smokes like a whole pack?
Yeah, kind of. It's a matter of tapering. It takes a long time to taper, so they get down to the point where they just stop. So the people say, "Well, I don't want to go cold." Most people do want to go cold turkey.
Yeah,
but a lot of people are afraid of that because they don't want the discomfort, because it really is uncomfortable. So what they do is they taper those nicotine replacement therapy.
Like the patches,
or whatever you do. Or people just like, okay, I'm not smoking a pack, 2 packs, I'm smoking 1 pack, I'm down to 10 cigarettes, which they can't supervise themselves over an extended period of time anyway.
Yeah.
But if you do it more mechanically, like with a patch, which you go from 10 milligrams to 8 milligrams to 5, then you get down to a small amount of milligrams, there's a lower jumping off point. So the withdrawal symptoms aren't as severe, and they seem to dissipate quicker.
Yeah.
In other words, you're still jumping off. You're still going cold turkey, but it's from a lower dosage.
Right.
So it makes it easier to do.
Have you helped anybody stop vaping?
Actually,
or do people love vape so much that
not hands on?
Yeah.
Hands off, yes, because they use the C app and they meditate, and I work with them that way.
And then they say, "Hey, I stopped."
Yeah, and then they write me saying, "Oh my God, I stopped smoking. Thank you so much."
That's cool.
But as far as hands on, there are people who I'm not going to explain the whole program, but who I do it over the phone with them, and we do it over a period of time, over a period of days.
Yeah.
And those people. What did you want to know about that?
Oh, I don't know. I was just asking if you help people stop vaping.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so, yeah.
Versus cigarettes.
Yeah. Honestly, no. I mean, people indirectly with the vaping, yes, because they tell me about it.
Yes.
Hands-on, anyone that I've ever worked with, it was always with cigarettes.
It was with cigarettes, yeah. I know people like to jump to vaping from cigarettes.
They do.
Because of the carcinogens.
Well, we were talking about that because a few days ago we were talking about Gutfeld, right?
Yeah.
Right, so we were, we saw him vaping.
Okay.
Right in the studio during the taping. And I don't know if he vaped beforehand. He doesn't vape during the show, but he's like, taking a hit off the vape.
Sure.
Now, I know he says that he used vaping to quit smoking, and he didn't go back to vaping. He stayed off the vaping. Okay. But we saw him vaping.
Yeah.
So is he lying? I don't know. I think he might just be spot treating his lack of cognition or trying to boost his cognition.
Right.
For his show while he's interacting with guests and all that sort of stuff. And we said the same thing about Sean Hannity. We saw there's a famous video of him vaping in between blocks, and he's like, he gets caught on the screen,
And I already said this last time, but that was when he was. That was when vaping wasn't even that popular yet.
Yeah, right.
It was actually people were making fun of vaping,
right?
Because it was like only these losers are vaping, and they're like ripping clouds and all this.
Ripping clouds?
Yeah, that's what they call it. Like, oh, I rip a fat cloud. Talking about vapes.
The thing is, it's the same thing.
It is goofy. Sorry.
I can understand. I really can understand someone like a Gutfeld or any of these people, using a vape in order to increase their cognition.
It's so bad
because it does work. I know, but it does work, and it's temporary. It stimulates all those neural pathways get stimulated, and it increases your memory retention, how quick you think, how you just process.
Sure,
your processing speed gets faster.
It also gives you a big dopamine hit, by the way.
It does. It's not that big. It's not really that big.
My point is, like, it's bigger than caffeine, for example.
Oh yeah.
Something like caffeine. I'm just saying, compared to, because people drink caffeine, it's like, oh, I needed a cup of coffee to wake up. Right. That's not going to give you a big dopamine hit.
No.
The same way nicotine is, which is way less than alcohol or
totally
cocaine
different.
Or something.
Both of those substances appear naturally in our foods. Nicotine and caffeine.
Yeah.
Caffeine,
sure.
Famously chocolate, of course, coffee. But it's a total different process in the brain. It's a different process, and it's the nicotine is actually quite a bit stronger, than the caffeine. The caffeine, you wake up, but and you get that in your food. In order to get to get 1 cigarette's worth of nicotine, you would have to eat 400 baked potatoes, because it's in potatoes.
Okay.
Or I think
baked potatoes have nicotine.
Well, you don't have to bake them. Raw potatoes have it.
Raw
too.
Potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes have
weird.
nicotine. Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of the nightshades, I think. Eggplant.
Yeah.
I think if you eat 18 pounds of eggplant, it's like having a cigarette.
All right.
Or 18 pounds? No, 12 pounds. I got my numbers mixed up. 12 pounds of eggplant is 1 cigarette. I got my numbers mixed up. I looked this up one time. I don't know why I remember this. You could drink 18 gallons of tomato sauce. It's like having 1 cigarette.
So these are all effective smoking cessation methods, I suppose.
I got to try that.
Oh, I didn't switch to vape. I switched to
tomato sauce. Oh my God. Or eggplant would be good, because then you can fry them. I also work
at a pizza parlor now.
And I weigh 600 pounds.
Yeah, and I steal the sauce.
Oh my God.
Actually, I asked ChatGPT. I just happened to have this. I didn't know we would happen to have this. I did not know we'd go into actual amounts comparing things.
Yeah.
But dopamine increase percentage over baseline for different activities and substances.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. So we have caffeine, and these are, I'm sure there's some dispute, because you have lots of studies out there that's like, actually, we measured it at 40. Oh, well, we measured it at 80. It's like, okay, whatever. But caffeine says that's about 40 to 60% increase in dopamine.
40%?
40 to 60% for caffeine.
I'm not, I believe that there's a number like that. I don't know how they measure this.
I'm not sure how they measure either. And you also have to take into account how much you're having, right?
Right.
So I'm going to assume that for all these, it's like an average dose. So I'm going to assume that's like a cup of coffee. I don't know. I'm assuming based on this. And I did have it like, I said, no, do a search, look through studies, actually come up with an answer, because it'll just make stuff up, right? Because this is ChatGPT came up with this.
Right.
Social interaction / laughter.
ChatGPT makes things up?
Yes, a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Social interaction / laughter, 40 to 80%.
That's pretty high.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, it goes up and down all day, right?
Sure, right.
Music, 50 to 100%. That seems too high to me. I feel like it, I don't know.
I'm telling you, no, music
does a lot.
Music does a lot. I'm a music abuser in my youth.
A music abuser.
A music abuser.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I would get up in the morning. I'd have a cup of coffee. I'd get in my car and drive to work. I'd be cranking the Metallica or whatever it was I was listening to at that time. That was very early Metallica at that time.
Right.
Or whatever it is. I'd be cranking it up.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I'd get to work and I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exercise, 50 to 100%.
Yeah. That's good.
Food, sweets. I don't know
if that's why people get addicted to going to the gym.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 Well, the thing is, because it's what what is it called? Mesolimbic? Is that
mesolimbic?
Mesolimbic.
Yeah, the limbic system. They call it mesolimbic.
Okay, mesolimbic.
Yeah.
But that's your pleasure and reward
Correct.
center, your
Correct.
pathways, right? So that's like, okay, well, I start going to and that's why if you stop going to the gym,
right,
it's harder to start back up. You don't feel like it, and then you go, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
wait,
because
you're
not addicted anymore.
Right, you get less addicted to the gym, and you don't feel like it. But once you start back up, you get in a groove, and it's easier to go work out in the morning.
Yeah,
I knew somebody in particular who never worked out at all, and she said to me once, she was like, I don't know how these people do this. It just looks so miserable. I'm like, no, you have to do it a couple times.
Right.
You have to, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait,
Yep.
I kind of like this.
Yep.
But she couldn't get into it. But okay,
I'll just tell you real quick. I'm undergoing an experience like that now. I'm not getting high when I work out.
No,
I just don't. I mean,
right. I mean, you can abuse that. They're gym rats, right?
Oh yeah.
But you're supposed to work out. I mean, your dopamine is supposed to go up and down.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, when I had the surgery in my eye, okay. I wasn't allowed to work out for a week.
Yeah.
And I just restarted working out now, and I noticed I had to lower my weights and stuff like that. But I do notice it's like I need a little bit more motivation in the morning to do my workout. I used to go I do my stretches and I go right into the workout.
Yeah.
Now I know it's like I'm pushing myself a little bit more. I'm wondering if that effect is there.
And did you wait the right amount of time?
Yeah. Why?
Between the surgery and working out?
Why?
I don't want something like
no.
I don't want you to
like watch an old House episode where the guy's eye blows out of his head.
Yeah.
No.
I don't want you doing something you're not supposed to.
No. And by the way, you didn't ask me why I'm doing a podcast without my eye patch.
Right. Well, you didn't do the last one. Or you didn't have it with the last one.
With the last one, yeah.
Right.
But I did a follow up with the surgeon.
Yeah.
On Monday, and I asked her about it.
Yes.
And she said it's fine. She said that she had never. She was shocked that it was healed so quickly.
I'm surprised too.
All the black. There's still black and blue. There's still some swelling.
Yeah.
Still a bit of swelling.
Looks good. Really does.
I know. I'm surprised too.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't say I'm surprised. I tend to heal very quickly. But a lot of the black and blue, the bruising is gone. A little bit of swelling. No pain whatsoever.
Yeah, it's still a bit swollen.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So,
well, if we ever want to cosplay pirates, that we're halfway there.
I don't do that.
Okay.
No.
I sensed like immediate disgust from you at the idea of cosplaying.
Yeah, I don't even like the word.
It's a weird word. It is weird. I don't even know where it comes from. Okay, let's go back to this. So we had food at 50 to 100%. I guess it depends on what you eat. We're talking about dopamine increase percentage, right? Over baseline. Okay. Video games / internet, 100%. Yeah, so video games are big. Video games give you a big dopamine boost.
Sure.
Right? I mean, bigger than exercise.
And I'm telling you, we always focus on dopamine. There are other neurotransmitters involved too. You got the serotonin, epinephrine.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, people don't get drunk or high just for the dopamine. It changes everything. Right.
And a lot of these things it's almost like a cocktail of all of these.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Okay, so then we have sex / orgasm, 100 to 200%. That's huge. That's probably the biggest natural activity you can do. Right. Is that. Okay.
Yeah. My first book that I wrote, I actually had the actual units, measurements in units with between sex and cocaine.
Yeah.
And I remember that the orgasm was, I forget how they measured it, but it was done in units.
Yeah.
And they had like an orgasm was equal to like 400 units of dopamine.
Okay.
And cocaine was like 3,000. And I was like, holy mackerel.
Really? So cocaine was more.
It was huge.
Okay. I thought you were going to say they were similar.
No. No.
And by the way, though, if I don't know the exact science behind this or what it is, but I did hear, I think it was Huberman talking about how if you're doing pornography and you're into all that stuff, you're not just getting that normal sort of like dopamine response from an orgasm. You're actually totally changing things. It doesn't do the same thing chemically in your brain as just an orgasm.
So it's not like so phony sex, yeah?
Yeah, it's totally different brain chemistry.
It's
worse for you. It's worse for you.
Why would that be? I would think it would be as bad.
I think it's more dopamine. I forget exactly why, but it's not. It's actually worse for you,
right?
On a biological level, not just on a.
I think we may have a podcast
level.
subject one of these days.
Maybe that'll be a weird one.
Okay. Yeah.
It's nice father-son podcast. So we did THC. So this is marijuana,
right?
125 to 175% increase. Okay, so that's pretty big. Nicotine, 150 to 200%. So nicotine, at least according to ChatGPT, is more dopamine than pot, than weed.
Wow.
Now, like I said, you don't smoke for the you don't smoke weed for the dopamine. So, but we're just comparing dopamine now. Alcohol, 150 to 200, about the same as nicotine, I guess. Cocaine, 300 to 400%. Amphetamines, 1,000%. And then meth is 12,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah. Wow.
I'm sorry, 1,200.
12,000. Yeah, that's why, and I'm going to lump that in with cocaine.
Yeah.
Because that 400 units to like 3,000 units is like insane. That's insane too.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. The thing about the nicotine though is also, you can't take methamphetamine. You can't spot use methamphetamine.
Hey, let me get a hit of that real quick.
Yeah, let me get a hit of that real quick. I gotta change my oil filter.
Change my oil filter.
Well, yeah, people.
What do you mean?
On your car? I'm gonna wash and wax my car. Give me some crystal meth so I can get that done quick. I got an important meeting in 2 hours.
Okay.
No, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But people are going to use nicotine that way to increase cognition.
Yeah,
right? Like we were talking about. Okay. But the thing is that if you do it that way, what happened? We were sort of talking about Tucker and how he does it all day long
with the pouch.
Yeah. So I don't want to hone in on him.
Right.
But people that do that, they get addicted to it. Obviously, it raises the level that they need in order to maintain normal. But they're stimulating those. They're becoming more cognitive. But cognition, and this is where the spiritual angle comes in. It gets metaphysical too. It's not just a physical addiction. You get addicted to. Well, first of all, when we're talking about cognition, we're talking about being drawn into a thought process. See, and when you're drawn into a thought process, you're focusing and you're concentrating, and people want that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's actually a form, you may not feel like it, but that is a form of unconsciousness. You're becoming unconscious when you're lost in thought.
You mean spiritually?
Spiritually.
Okay.
You're
not talking about a biological unconsciousness.
Well, you think you're conscious because you're in because your intellect is telling you.
Right. So if you're thinking, I'm just confirming because we were talking science there. You're not talking about a biological sense of sentience, right? Like awake versus asleep.
No.
You're not talking about that.
I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
No, because you are more alert.
Right.
But you're intellectually alert. And the intellect and the spirit are two separate things. And you go back and forth between the two, whether you're awake or not. Okay. When you're stimulated chemically into the thought process, you're leaving consciousness, you're leaving the present, and you're going into something else, and you're focusing and you're concentrating.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes you vulnerable. That makes you emotionally vulnerable. That's when the scary stuff comes in. That's the stuff I talk about with there are dark forces that take advantage of your unconsciousness, and those thoughts are where you get the temptations to judge and to be resentful and bitter and sore, or to judge people well, like, oh, that's a wonderful person. You're playing God. You're sending them to heaven, or you're sending the bad guy to hell, or the situation.
Yeah.
So when you start doing that, you start stimulating parts of your mind and your brain that really shouldn't be that stimulated. So and then that wears down on you. You age faster from smoking. Smoking ages you.
You're saying that the nicotine makes you might be cognitively aware.
Your cognition is improved.
You are spiritually unaware.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's because you're focusing on thinking. So if I'm focused on something, work related, I'm actually doing quite well with it, and I'm using my intellect the way I'm supposed to use intellect. But when I stop, I have to be able to step back and become me again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just interject, because that does remind me of something. I know that when you're in the guided sessions that that you produce and when you're helping people one-on-one, you say don't focus on your fingertips. So you can notice your fingertips, but don't focus. You just bring your attention lightly to them. And then the lights and I realized that there is a big difference. People don't like that distinction because they think that, well, to bring your attention to something is to focus on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you bring your attention really hard to something, that you could call that a focus.
Yeah.
But to simply notice that something is there is to notice that you are apart from it. So when you focus on something, you're actually becoming that. And I'm like, wow, if I were to focus on my fingertips, I would actually, in a sense, become my fingertips.
That's exactly right.
I'd be moving toward my fingertips.
That's exactly right.
I'm not. I'm staying here, and I'm noticing my fingertips here. So there is a distinction there. Why are you smiling?
I like when you see things that are true.
Yeah. So because a lot of other and the reason that it occurred to me was because I had heard other meditations before, or other. I don't use other meditations. Other people talking about this, gurus, whatever, saying yes, and you must focus on your body or focus on your breath, or And I'm like, well, if you're focusing on that, you're actually coming out of you're coming out of yourself and you're becoming something else.
You're becoming something, right.
And that distinction made sense to me in that moment while I was meditating.
Right.
Like, that would be the opposite of meditating if I were to do that.
It is the exact opposite. Concentrating and focusing takes you out of the wordless moment.
Yeah.
Into a intellectual wordful moment. And you leave the present and you go into the past or future that way, or you can go into an object.
And that's what they practice. That is what mindfulness is. And I realized that we've had conversations. Should we use the word mindful? Shouldn't we? And it's an English word, but what has happened is Eastern philosophy has grabbed it and said, this is the translation of what we mean when we say whatever their word is, which is in their own language. And we're going to call it mindfulness. And what they mean when they say it is they mean a concentration on other things. Like, I can't remember his name, but he actually just passed away either this year or last year. He was a big, I think he was Vietnamese. He was a big meditation guru type guy. And his whole thing is you become the objects that it's the object of your meditation. You become it. You become an orange. You become a teapot. I pour the teapot mindfully. That means I become the teapot as I pour it.
Yeah.
And that's what they actually teach. And it's actually the opposite of real meditation.
It's the opposite
of
it, right? It's the opposite
of non-contemplative meditation.
That is true. Yeah. And you actually do become the thing, and you lose yourself. Right. You lose your true self.
And then, but you start to intellectualize that.
You start to intellectualize it, and you think that it's a wonderful thing because now you're temporarily your intellect tells you you're at peace now because you're separated from the bad things, and now you're in this inanimate object.
Yes. So when you intellectualize that, you form a philosophy around it. Right. That's when you get pantheism, oneness, the idea that everything is interconnected and everything is part of you and you are part of everything and everything is one. And this feeling of a loss of self, really. You talk about self as a dark self. Right. But there is a real you.
There is.
They don't think there's a real you.
No.
The Eastern philosophies think that everything is you and you are everything.
Right.
So when they talk about something like, we're totally on a tangent now. That's okay though. When we talk about something like, they talk about ego death. That's a concept to them, ego death. They're not talking about seeing the darkness within you and realizing that you are a soul yourself. You are a true person and you should align with God. They're talking about realizing there is no you at all. They're talking about a dissolution completely of your own personal being into just ether. And that's, I don't even know how they get there. I guess it's that type of thing.
It's a trance, and you open up this psychic void within you, and then something arrives and takes its place, and you don't even know that that's happening.
Right.
It's very, very dangerous.
It's very, it's also very, it's anti-Christian.
Well, ultimately,
really?
What's the ultimate of that? The ultimate of that is that if everything is one,
and
you are part of everything, that would include God.
That's the point.
And that's the main underlying point that it comes to. It doesn't tell you that it hooks you in with all this bliss and peace and nothingness and oneness and all of that. It all sounds wonderful. But what it comes down to, wait a minute. If that's true, then I must be God too.
Yeah.
Bam. Gotcha. Right. Now you're God.
Now you're God.
And that is all that evil has ever wanted to be.
Now you've saved yourself.
God. Now you save yourself because now you're God. And then you start to think you can save other people because you've been listening usually to a guru. Yeah. Now you become the guru.
Yeah.
And now you're spreading this on to other people, you know.
So now we're just ripping on New Age at this point.
But I was talking about how the effect of nicotine, this cognition, basically hijacks your awareness. It mimics awareness. It's not real awareness. It's cognition.
Oh, yeah, right. You go into the thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. You go into your cognition. Sure.
You're going to go into that, and you become this brainiac creature.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what a lot of academics are lost in. They're lost in their own heads, and they sound really smart, and they solve a lot of problems, but they get lost there, and they find that they can't find their way back to themselves. And you were talking about you not being a self, that you're part of the one. But you do have a self. You have a false self that lies to you. And then you have your real self. And if you can't tell the difference, you're screwed.
Right.
You're screwed. You do whatever it wants because you think that you're it and you're not.
Yeah.
You know?
So this false self that is selfish and greedy and attention-loving and all that.
Selfish, self-centered,
essentially convinces you there is no self at all, including your real self.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It's just you and the universe.
Right.
And it's all the same thing.
Right.
Somehow we got to that from nicotine.
I don't know, nicotine. Well, because nicotine puts you into that state where if you're constantly dosing with nicotine all the time, you never come back to reality. You're always with the intellect. That cognition is constantly firing all the time. And then you don't come back to reality. You stay there. And then you become a walking, talking, you know, whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you meet somebody sometimes and you could just tell they're crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean like somebody walking in circles on the sidewalk. Like you said, it can be an academic. It can be not all academics. I'm just focusing. I'm just emphasizing the fact that any walk of life, any profession, any intellectual level, these people exist, and you meet them, and you're like, I don't think this person remembers that they are a person. They've just like become whatever profession they are, whatever thing they're doing.
You can tell there are intellectual types. There are people that turn on their intellect. They're
not self-aware, I guess, is a way of saying it.
Like you mentioned, Huberman.
Yeah.
Right? He's an intellectual.
Sure.
He's a Stanford professor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he also
looks like a Viking, by the way.
He looks like a Viking.
He's got the beard, he's got big muscles, and he's like this brainiac, you know?
Okay. But he also strikes me as somebody who is capable of being a human being when he needs to be.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? But there are people that don't do that.
Yeah.
There are people who are just walking, talking memory machines.
Yeah.
Just spitting out what they've learned.
You don't feel like you're talking to you don't even feel like they're understanding anything you're saying.
Right.
It's like
they're useful. I like using them because they're like going to the library.
Well, you know what we call those NPCs.
They're NPCs, right?
Yeah.
Hello.
It's like
welcome.
It's like you don't know you're part of the video game, dude.
You're right.
Yes. I was going to say about vaping too. All these flavors and stuff, those are no good for you either. That's the thing, is that they taste good. Unlike cigarettes, they're like candy. They taste good. They got cinnamon and they got the blue raspberry or whatever it is. They got I don't know if they put menthol in them, but they do have like wintergreen type stuff too. And you're breathing those in. That stuff isn't good for your lungs. Like the cinnamon one, you're not supposed to breathe in cinnamon. It actually kills cells when cinnamon is in your lungs. So they're taking that chemical that's in cinnamon that you eat, and they're putting it in a vapor that you're breathing in, and it's actually killing cells.
Was it
you? Bad for you.
I think it was it you who was telling me that some people vape without the nicotine just for the flavor?
Yeah,
somebody was telling me that.
Some people do that. You could get no nick vapes.
No nick.
They call them nick. By the way, it's so prevalent now that people know that they're doing it for the drug. Unlike cigarettes, which is just like, we're having a cigarette. People just call it Nick. Oh, I need some Nick. Yeah, NIC. But
but they just get the flavor. There's no neurocognitive modulation going on.
No, nothing. But it's terrible for you. It's still terrible. And also, the coils that do this, that take the liquid and make it into a gas that you can
turn into a vapor.
Yeah. There's a metal coil in there. Mm-hmm. You breathe some of that in too. That metal gets into the vapor.
Sure it does.
So they've tested. Actually, wait. We'll do a quick search.
What's it made out of?
A bunch of stuff you don't want.
I bet aluminum.
Let me find it. Vape metal poison. Let me see. Toxic metals, arsenic, lead, chromium, nickel.
Great.
I also read aluminum. I remember.
Yeah.
They're in the vape that you're getting.
Yeah. Physically it's not healthy, but No.
I mean, you're actually getting like metal poisoning from these vapes.
I believe it. I believe it.
But I was going to say about the flavor. Here's the weird thing about the flavor. Okay, I said this Elf Bar, which is a Chinese company.
Right.
So it's literally. And by the way, there is no company that exists in China that isn't controlled by the Chinese government. That's how it works.
Yeah, business is controlled by China.
Yeah. So you can't go into business unless you have approval from the government.
Right.
So know that. They sell all these flavored vapes.
Right.
Right. Flavored vapes are illegal in China.
Oh, really?
So the product they're selling, their big hit in America, isn't even legal there.
Wow.
The same way. Marijuana. They're growing marijuana in the U.S., which I'll go into on another podcast. They're growing marijuana here. That's illegal in China. They can't even really use it for medicinal reasons there, but they're growing it here. Another one, TikTok. How about TikTok?
Yeah, TikTok.
It's like let's compare what's on the American TikTok versus the Chinese TikTok that they're not even allowed to use past certain hours. It's like total debauchery and brain rot in America.
Right.
And in China, no, they don't let that happen.
Right.
So it's like, wait a second. There's a trend here. I think there's some sort of scheme in place going on, and they're doing it with nicotine with the vapes too. So
pretty crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah,
it's planned. It's on purpose.
Okay.
Oh, so also, aside from nicotine, sticking with vapes, people use like CBD vapes,
right, for
like anxiety.
Sure.
Have you heard? They have anxiety pens. Have you heard of an anxiety pen?
Jeez, I'm so unplugged. Yeah,
you are unplugged. I have a feeling if you started working with some of these younger people, like a lot of them,
right,
you would see they're into some crazy stuff now.
So what is it? What is an anxiety pen?
Let me show you. So here's an anxiety pen freak out. This guy's a popular political TikToker.
Is he 14?
He looks, that's the thing. He's liberal. He's on the left.
Yeah.
All these liberal TikTokers, they all look severely underdeveloped.
Okay.
I think it's lack of testosterone.
I think
for all of them, they're all skinny. They have no facial hair. They can't grow any facial hair.
Right.
It's like, what's going on with them? Anyway, so here's Dean, who's a professional. He's a professional political influencer. Okay, and he does vape.
Anxiety. Okay, and honestly, it is kind of the fault of people like you that want to come up here and bully and berate me over something that I don't do. Okay, so cut the shit. It's not a vape. All right, it's an anxiety pin, and God, the amount of times that I've asked you to respect me and respect my anxiety pin is, at this point, getting ridiculous, Cody. So please,
justified crash out
for the final and for the billionth time. Will you please just respect the fact that it's not a vape and that it's an anxiety pin?
All right.
What's this?
Stop right there.
I said 14. I should have said 12.
I don't know, but I guess the anxiety pen is not working.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah.
But he's using an anxiety
Wait a minute.
pen.
That's right. He's talking about his cure for anxiety.
Yes. He's talking about what helps him with his anxiety. So he freaks out because people call it a vape.
Right.
And it is a vape.
Yeah.
It is a vape.
Yeah.
It's vapor coming out of a little machine. But anyway, I don't know if his is flavored or if his has CBD. I have no idea what's in his, but people do that. I saw a CBD, a dog treat. It was a CBD dog treat. They were selling it at a convenience store I went to.
For dogs who are in pain or have anxiety?
Yeah, well, when your dog gets a little too anxious or or enthusiastic, you can just kind of mellow them out a bit with a CBD dog treat.
I've raised dogs. They get very anxious sometimes.
Yes. You're going to drug them.
So you're going to drug them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
Hey, I wanted to mention something to you. Well, first of all, I want to mention also, I got my red, white, and blue shirt on.
Yeah.
In celebration of Independence Day, which is tomorrow. We're shooting this the day before.
Sure.
And so, happy 4th of July.
I have red, white, and blue.
You're white. Your shirt is red.
That's right.
And
That's exactly right.
And your other shirt is blue. Okay.
I tried to.
And I got the flag behind me here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy 4th of July. Hey, I wanted to mention something. This just came out today. I wasn't going to talk about it. I hadn't planned to talk about it, but I wanted to mention it to you. And you know Mike Rowe.
Yeah. Dirty Jobs.
Dirty Jobs. Yeah. He. Are you familiar with the term cause marketing? Cause marketing.
No.
Okay. Go ahead. Run, Mike.
Run, Mike. Run.
Run, Mike.
I even like it. As you can see, I switched to Pure Talk not long ago from Verizon, partly because I was sick of Verizon, and partly because I wanted to be on the nation's most dependable 5G network and save a whole bunch of money, but mostly because of Clint. I wanted to be in business with a wireless company who actually stands for something, and I love what Pure Talk is doing for our vets. I love the way they support America.
I just wanted to get that. He's showing an ad that he ran that was pulled by, because it's for this company. What's the name of the company?
Pure Talk?
Yeah, Pure Talk.
Yeah, I was totally confused while I was watching him.
He's watching him watch himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, forget about that idea. I didn't have the original, so I was showing him show the original.
Yeah.
That was pulled by the Verizon and AT&T, I guess, had that ad pulled from whatever media it was running on.
Oh.
Because it's competition.
Yeah.
Okay. And his whole thing...
How can they have it pulled?
Well, it's competition.
So how do they have it pulled?
They just make a phone call.
My God.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. And
it's like a mafia boss or
something.
something.
I'm not, I like Mike, and he does a great job, and he's a good guy.
Sure.
But this whole thing about he wants to do business with companies that he believes in, that has a cause, what is the term that he used? Can you run it again?
Yeah.
Just the last couple of seconds.
Long ago from Verizon, partly because I was sick of Verizon, and partly because I wanted to be on the nation's most dependable 5G network and save a whole bunch of money, but mostly because of Clint. I wanted to be in business with a wireless company who actually stands for something.
Right. So that's the whole thing. To do business with a company because of what they stand for.
Sure.
That's the whole thing.
That is a big thing right now, especially in politics. Yeah.
Especially in politics. And
right wing specifically.
Right. Yeah. Because like some companies that did that, what it was, that immediately come to mind. Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A was, you're Christian.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, there's a difference between going in business with somebody like a
family values, I guess it is.
Well, are you talking about a paid partnership, a paid sponsorship like this, or are you talking about just consuming a product that you like?
That's another aspect. Well, he's supporting that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like Patagonia, their whole thing is the environment. Chick-fil-A's Christian family values.
Right.
There's a coffee company, I forget the name, Black Rifle. Is that
Black Rifle.
Black Rifle. They're for patriotism and all that stuff.
Yeah. Second Amendment rights, whatever.
Second Amendment rights. And his whole thing with this company, what's it called again?
Pure Talk.
Pure Talk. His whole thing with Pure Talk is that they support the veterans.
Okay.
Okay. And those are all good causes, but I don't want to do business with company based on that. I want to do business with a company because they have a superior product.
Yes.
And I have been tempted to look into this company to see if maybe I should switch.
Right.
But their whole push is not great service, great product, good coverage. They don't push any of that stuff. So I always suspect that there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
And they shoot for emotions. I don't make purchases based on emotion. And I'm not for that. I think that's not capitalism.
I'm thinking meta right now. It'd be really crazy if we had like a Pure Talk sponsorship in a year from now on our pod. Brought to you.
Not anymore.
Brought to you. But yeah, not anymore. No, well, I don't know anything about the company. I do. Another one is Patriot Mobile. Have you heard
that's
that?
another one.
That's another one.
They push emotional buttons to get you to become their customer.
So here's the thing. There's an interplay between the two because I don't like supporting companies that are literally running against what I believe. Like I don't like if I'm supporting a company that I think is somehow contributing to the opposite of what I what I want, of what I like for our country, for things like that, for people.
But does that really serve you? I don't want to buy.
Well, So what I was going to say is there's an interplay between the two. So you have that element, which is true and it's real. But yeah, the product has to be good. I've tried things before. I can't think of an example right now. I don't think it's a physical good. I think it's probably more like, I don't know, a service on the internet or something like that. I've tried stuff where I want to like it. I want to support it because I like the people involved better with this than I do for their competition.
Right.
And you go to them and it turns out that their product kind of sucks.
That's right.
That's what happens.
That happens all the time.
They don't have a good product.
Right.
Yeah.
So, show me that your product is really great.
Yeah.
Do that.
You should have both. You should have both.
Lead with that. Tell me how fast the service is, how much coverage you have. And if you can't do all that to make your case, I'm kind of suspicious. Like I'm afraid of you.
Right.
I don't want to be stuck with you now.
Right.
I think I'm paying too much for my phone service right now.
Uh-huh.
But I don't lose my signal hardly at all.
Yeah.
I use AT&T.
Right.
I have great coverage. I just don't want to get screwed on the price. And
now, if you look into AT&T and the causes they donate to,
they probably hate me. They probably hate me.
You would be like, oh man, why?
I know.
You wouldn't like it.
Right.
But to switch to something else that might be inferior, I've had that happen before.
I want to have confidence in the product, not in the flag they fly.
Yeah, I did I participated in the Coca-Cola boycott, if you remember from, I don't know if it was 2020 or 2022.
I do remember that.
There was Coca-Cola. It was like, don't drink Coke anymore.
Right.
And that's why, because they started.
You shouldn't drink Coca-Cola anyway.
Yeah, I know. They started either funding or coming out against, I forget, but it had to do with the elections in Georgia.
Right.
And the election in Georgia, totally rampant with fraud and stuff like that. But it had something to do with that. And it was like, all right, no more Coca-Cola. And I like Coca-Cola. I don't drink it every day. I don't drink it regularly even, but I'll have a bottle occasionally, from the grocery stores or usually gas station, I guess. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get a Pepsi instead. So I get a Pepsi and I drink the Pepsi. I'm like, I miss Coca-Cola.
Yeah, right.
This is not the same.
Yeah.
This is not as good.
Yeah.
So there's that too. It's like, all right, I'm going to boycott it, but not for long because I really don't like the competition very much. Right. It doesn't work that well.
So I wanted to mention that. It's kind of interesting. Pure Talk. I wish Pure Talk was,
you don't know if Pure Talk's good or not, right?
I don't know because I don't want to waste time looking into it.
Yeah, but they didn't sell you.
Sell me.
The point is they didn't sell you on the service.
No, they're trying to appeal to my emotions, and you can't do that with me.
Right. I bet you can.
No, you can't. I don't give into emotions.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention, back to mesolimbic reward system is
ventral tegmental area of the nucleus accumbens.
Whatever. Gambling.
Gambling. Yeah.
We talked about gambling a few podcasts ago too, I think. But this new, I don't know if this big beautiful bill is going to pass or not, but you know about the gambling clause that's in it that everybody's freaking out over?
No.
Yeah. So this is like big news. Only some people are covering it. I don't know why.
Right.
But they're changing how the tax structure works for gamblers. So here's how it works now. Gambling is you have profit and loss, just like any business, right?
Right.
So if you spend money gambling, that's your loss, and then what you win is your revenue, is what you take in, and your profit is the difference between your what you win and what you lose, right?
Yeah.
So if you spend if you spent $1,000 and you win $1,100, then your profit is that $100.
Okay.
So you're taxed on that $100. Just like a business.
Right. Sure.
Make sense?
Sure.
Okay. It's changing because of language that was just last minute inserted into this bill that will probably either pass or fail by the time this podcast comes out, by the way. And I don't know if this clause is going to have anything to do with it, but that works because you're allowed to subtract 100% of your losses from your winnings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a deduction.
Right.
Right. It's
right.
So now it changes it to make it 90% of your losses are deductible. So now
10% are taxable.
So 10% are
remain taxable.
Okay, let me explain it with an example. Let's say you won $100.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you also lost $100.
Right.
Normally you would get taxed on 0 because
even though on 10%.
Even though you won 100,
yeah,
you get to subtract 100 in losses from that.
Right.
But now you only get to subtract 90% of your losses. That's $90. So you're going to get taxed on 10% of those earnings, which is $10,
right.
Even though you're net 0.
Wow, that's stupid.
So now 10%.
That would be like taking all my business expenses, like in a company, in a business, and saying, okay, these are all tax deductible. These are everything that you put into your rent, your
expenses,
insurance, and all of that. You get to deduct that. No, you only get to deduct 90% of that now.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So if you're dealing with really small,
okay, in a business, that's a disincentive.
Oh, major.
for expansion, for investment in your own company.
Right. So I gave an example where you break even. What if you don't break even? What if you come out a little bit ahead?
Right.
What if you make and maybe it's worth it to you. It's a fake example, so the numbers don't make total sense. But let's say you spent $100.
Yeah.
And you made 101, so you had $1 profit.
Yeah.
But you're going to get taxed on that $1 plus 10% of your losses, which is $10. So you're going to get taxed on $11, even though you only have $1. And whatever the tax percentage is, it's going to take away from that. So you end up with a situation where you could actually lose money, lose money when you calculate taxes, even though before taxes you were winning money. So if you're a gambler that operates on really small margins, like these professional gamblers do, you might be like, all right, I just can't play anymore.
Yeah, you're out of business.
If
you're in a gambling business,
yeah,
people do that. Yeah, that's crazy.
When you have like $1 million buy-ins and stuff like that.
Wow, that is totally crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gambling is a funny thing. It's like really, people, I'm doing a lot of work now in our business and everything with sleep, helping people sleep.
Okay.
And one of the things because I work with a lot of alcoholics, I told you, and a lot of them are into gambling.
Yeah.
And virtually everyone I know who is a gambler has a problem with sleeping. They can't sleep.
Okay.
And it's not, I'm so worried about losing my money. It's just that the gambling is it's so intoxicating that it boosts up all of those neurotransmitters that we spoke of before. Your cortisol levels go up, your adrenaline, everything else. You can't sleep at night. You can't sleep. It just throws your whole system off.
Yeah. As it turns out, apparently, like almost everybody has trouble sleeping. I didn't realize so many people did.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
I don't.
No, I don't.
I know you don't either, but I could fall asleep anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I had difficulty staying asleep for a while, but I rearranged things and I actually just changed. I was able to change my sleep patterns.
Yeah.
Because I was having issues with my back that you know about my issues with that I have.
Sure.
And that's fixed and so I was having issues. So I rearranged my whole sleep.
Yeah.
I got into a habit of not sleeping very much.
Right.
And I find that I like to sleep a little bit more now. I went so long. I worked on Wall Street and in business and everything, and I used to go on like 4 or 5 hours a night all the time for decades. And now I find that I do a lot better when I get like 7-8 hours sleep every night.
I probably get 6 or 7 is my guess.
I think you should get more.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah.
There was one period of time a few years back where I was just, I don't know if it was stress, I don't know, but I had anxiety all of a sudden, and then I had trouble sleeping.
Right.
And I realized the relationship between not handling stress correctly and inability to sleep. And as soon as that was over, I had some realizations and I could sleep again. And I was like, oh my God, that's why people can't sleep. They're stressed out. They're anxious.
Right.
They're thinking. They're overthinking things.
It's overthinking. Yeah. That's what people say all the time. I can't stop thinking. I can't stop thinking.
Yeah.
That's right. You can't stop thinking. And that's why if you meditate, if you separate from your thinking, you disengage from all of that, and then your system goes back down to where it's supposed to be. Your cortisol levels go down, everything changes, and you're able to fall asleep. But then your sleep cycles normalize. And then you stay, not only do you fall asleep, but then you stay asleep.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, that's how caffeine works. I'm sure there are other ways it works too, but it messes with one of the chemicals that controls your circadian rhythm.
Right.
Like
it
that.
does.
So that's how it keeps you up too.
Right. But it's extremely unhealthy. And that affects
caffeine?
your cognition. Not getting enough sleep.
Oh, okay.
Because we've talked about in the past, your lymphatic system that cleans out your brain from all of the various byproducts and toxins.
Lymphatic, yeah.
What'd I say?
No. I'm emphasizing that it's not lymphatic.
Oh, yeah, lymphatic.
It's a novel
lymphatic.
Word, yeah.
It is a novel word.
Yeah.
It's like a lymphatic system for the brain.
Okay.
And that sort of washes out your everything. The physiology of your brain actually changes and allows you the cells to get like washed through and all these impurities and waste products get pulled out. Yeah. And heavy metals, all kinds of stuff. And heavy metals and plastics are kind of funny though. But a lot of the other stuff that gets built up in there gets pulled out, including plaque, things that contribute toward dementia and Alzheimer's and all of that. So you have to get enough sleep.
That reminds me, and this will be probably the last thing I share before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I saw a study the other day, and it was a headline. It was making its rounds online. More microplastics in glass bottle beverages than plastic bottle beverages.
What?
And everybody was like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, how is it possible?
And of course, everybody's just sharing this headline being like, look, they're going to get you any way they can. There's nothing we can do. Everything's hopeless. But as you take a swig from your plastic bottle, it's so bad for you. Got to get a soda stream. Anyway, I looked at the study. I literally just looked at it briefly. I saw a synopsis of it or something.
Yeah.
And very clearly what happened is that the microplastics they found in the liquid in the glass bottles was identical to the paint on the lids of the glass bottles. It was not just microplastics from it was literally from however they were packaging these glass bottle beverages.
Right.
The cap paint was getting into the beverage.
That's crazy.
So that's what was happening. So it doesn't apply if you're like making your own, I don't know, seltzer with a soda stream.
So
or
it's the cap.
Like
Is that what? They're plastic caps?
No, it was
the paint. The paint.
Yeah. The paint on the caps.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
But that can't be all of them. There must be companies that don't.
I know.
Don't do that.
So to me, the study, I don't know if it's faulty, but they would have to do way more than just this one thing.
So I have reverse osmosis in the house.
Yep.
So I don't get it that way.
Yep.
The thing that concerns me, however, is like all the other stuff. It's like you
drink tons of sparkling water.
I do, and I try to. The best you can do is minimize it. You're not going to get rid of it. I mean, any clothing that's not 100% cotton, it's got plastic in it. Everything you touch has got plastic in it.
You're buying that meat that's cryopacked.
I buy meat that's cryopacked. Right. It's wrapped in plastic. Yeah. Everything's wrapped in plastic. Look at this. I mean, I got a plastic straw.
Yep.
A plastic bottle.
Yep.
Everything is plastic.
Yep.
What are you going to do?
Become plastic, I guess.
Become plastic. Become a plastic person.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk about that more. I have more to say about plastics, but
let's save it.
Let's save it for another time.
We've been going on a long time.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Sound good for today?
Anything else? Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day.
Happy belated Independence Day, likely, because it'll be the
birthday of America.
Yes, America's birthday.
I got my flag. I got my red, white, and blue shirt. And you know why? You know, waving flags and being patriotic and celebrating independence and celebrating America. It just seems like something that Democrats hate. Why is that?
Oh, you want to know something kind of ugly? Speaking about that,
what?
Okay, town of Barnstable.
Yeah,
no fireworks this year.
I live in Barnstable.
No fireworks this year.
Why not?
The town is no longer sponsoring fireworks due to wildlife preservation.
Great.
So, if you remember, the past few years, they were like, oh, we're going to move it to September.
Yeah, they made it unimportant.
For the piping plovers. We're going to move it till September. I get the piping plovers are important.
Plovers.
They're not even endangered, by the way. They're not endangered. Anyway, so they started postponing it. I'm like, you're not going to have fireworks on the 4th of July? You're not going to, you're actually going to, you think people are going to show up in late September for fireworks?
Yeah,
like that
stupid.
For the 4th of July?
Nobody's ridiculous.
So they did that for a few years. It was almost like a soft cancel.
Right.
It was like preparing you for disappointment. And then this year, they didn't even say anything because nobody's expecting it anymore. So I just saw a comment, oh, what about fireworks? Somebody said, and the town responded on Facebook, said, we're no longer sponsoring them for wildlife.
Is that when you were a kid, we used to go, we used to take you and your sister down to the harbor, Hyannis Harbor.
Hold on. I just want to say, I have no problem with preserving wildlife.
Right.
My whole point was going to be that you're being unpatriotic. You're actually not celebrating this country.
Right.
I do not think that the threat level that exists for wildlife should outweigh the duty to be patriotic and celebrate the country. It just shouldn't. It shouldn't cancel. It shouldn't cancel the nationalism, the patriotism you feel, and that's what's at the heart of it. Is that based on any
data, or like how many plovers die, or
it's probably based on something. I don't know.
Based on,
I mean, if you found out that they all like become rotisserie chickens by the end of the night because of your fireworks, maybe that is reason. But there's just something weird about it. I don't think these are patriotic people. No, go ahead. Not. What were you saying about us?
Oh, I was
fireworks
saying,
when we were kids. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, I was just going to ask you about is that. I wasn't going to go this year, but down in
the Hyannis fireworks. Yeah. Like we used to, we did that a couple times.
I mean, I'm not going to, as an adult, I'm not going down there, but we used to take you down there as kids.
Well, in classic New York fashion, you thought that they were lame.
They were.
Because New York is so much better.
It is better.
It is better.
It's fabulous.
I know.
It's unbelievably better.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'd rather watch it on TV and see that big, tremendous.
The Macy's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tremendous.
Right.
Okay. All right. Alrighty. Anything else?
That's it.
So we're done.
We're done.
All right. Till next time.
Goodbye.
Okay. Bye.